Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day here. A little overcast, a little chilly. I'm getting out in the afternoon because while I was working, I had the arguments before the Supreme Court on, and I wanted to listen to them because I think that uh, they're critical to our notions of a government divided into three departments checking each other, and one that has earned the trust of the people because it respects the traditions of law, which are precedents to be consistent with past cases, except in very rare exceptional instances when you may diverge from that, and to make the decision as narrow as is required. This case is particularly important, and when I say particularly, the question of a woman's right of choice and dominion and control over her own body are important issues. But this significant question is almost engulfed in the overriding question of our institutions, which is the Supreme Court determined in its decisions by political hacks who make promises to overrule decisions in order to get on the court? And the worst present offenders that fit in this category are Gorsuch, who was, if you will, his accidency. He was put on the court instead of Garland. Kavanaugh, who was challenged for his beer drinking and assaults on women. And finally, Amy Barrett, who is an ideologue who basically believes that her dedication to her religion transcends any responsibility she has as a matter of civil law. Three very bad choices for the Supreme Court, each of them chosen because they were involved in the Federalist Society, highly praised by them, had written decisions and indicated how they would rule when they got on the court. Each was very careful in their confirmation hearings to avoid answering questions, seemingly honestly giving what they did when they got on the court. And so this is the makeup of the court. The question before the Supreme Court has involved really two cases, one out of Texas, which was not considered today, and the other out of Mississippi. The question in the Mississippi case is it constitutional to limit a woman's right to have a pregnancy ended, an abortion, by 16 weeks? Why is that number important? Because the Supreme Court has consistently for, 50 years been of the view that that number is 24 weeks. And so this limits a woman's right of control of her body in decisions already made and long considered, both Roe v. Wade and the Casey decision. And these two decisions exist the law on abortions and the right of a woman to have one without interference by the state. Yet this decision has before us a 16-week period. So on its face, a first-year law student, or as one person wrote me today, a retired pharmacist can look at this and see that, 16 weeks is not 24 weeks. And so by that itself, it seeks to contradict the finding, the holding, and the preceding law. Now, Amy Barrett did give us a signal that she considers some cases are watershed cases, and you can't touch those. And of course, by her definition, by this artificial category that she created, she therefore says Roe v. Wade is not a watershed decision. Well, of course it is. And so that is the appearance before the court. Now, the reaction to this case coming up before the court has been so dramatic in calling those justices who won't exercise their independent judgment as promised when they were confirmed, they've been called hacks. And so we've had no less than Amy Barrett out on the stump explaining, I am not a hack. Sort of like Nixon, I am not a crook, but they are a hack. And we have responsible jurists like Associate Justice Breyer, one of my heroes, but I have several, and he came out and said that the trust of the nation is dependent upon the regularity and the and the willingness of the court to stick to the law, meaning to look at precedents. So today we had an argument before the court, and the Solicitor General from Mississippi who argued had formerly been the law clerk to Justice Thomas. Justice Thomas, because of his seniority, he gets to ask the questions first. And should he turn up on the winning side, that is how the justices vote in conference to decide this case, he, being on the winning side, meaning the majority, would get to decide who wrote the opinion that overturned Roe v. Wade. He would like to do nothing more important in his life, it seems, than that. It is possible that he is so extreme that he's isolated himself somewhat. The questions that the court had to deal with were, why would we overturn this? What has happened? And several of the justices, including Sotomayor, said nothing's happened to change. We still have the same division in the people, and we decide hard questions. And Breyer in particular said we decide hard questions which put us apart sometimes from some of the people. But the debate is no different when Roe v. Wade was decided and now. So there was a lot of back and forth about it. So the question is, when they get around to deciding this case, probably not until next spring, because that's the way the calendar works for the Supreme Court, the question is, who's going to end up on what side? And Roberts was kind of quiet on the court. Now, Roberts has shown himself in the past to be concerned about the institution of the Supreme Court. So I suspect that he will want to try to get the court to a point to uphold the precedent of Roe v. Wade and Casey in some way or other, or to find some minimal compromise. Ideally, he'd like the whole court on the decision, I believe, as the institutionalist that he is, so that his court is not a court of hacks. Now, I don't think we can expect Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, Barrett, I don't think we can expect them to move. But who can move? Kavanaugh can move, despite the fact that we have no use for him as an abuser of women and of a young alcoholic, it appears. I love my beer. But why would he want to uphold the precedent? Because he's young enough that he may think he could succeed someday as the Chief Justice if Roberts moves on for whatever reason. He also may want to go against the straitjacket that defined him in the hearings. Of course, he also is beholden to those who brought him to the dance, McConnell and others. And it's hard to say with a life appointment what they could do to him now that he's on the court. I suppose they could lobby against him when the position of Chief Justice arrives. He may also say, it's fine to be a hack, and I'd rather make the choice to be on that side. If that's what's happened, then obviously we have 5-4 the other way against following precedent and overturning it. So we won't know the answer to this. We won't be behind those closed doors. We won't be in the room when they make the decision. But that's what's at risk there. Now, there's some good news that I find encouraging. Now, you've all followed Sidney Powell, who with Rudy Giuliani, Rogue Rudy, was one of the outspoken persons who said there was fraud in the election. And she put together a group to defend the Republic that raised perhaps millions of dollars. Well, the same prosecutor who is prosecuting the contempt citation against Bannon issued a subpoena for the financial records of Sidney Powell. And this is the first time there's been an indication beyond, in my opinion, beyond the rioters themselves, that the Department of Justice is actually looking at the misconduct involving the fraud on the nation using funds collected from people who the charge has been have been deceived in making those contributions. Others who were involved in this Defend the Republic nonprofit that was put together, left the organization because Sydney wouldn't agree to an audit. So you get some idea that we may be climbing into a place where she may have to reconsider cooperating with the government and coming clean. I hope that we'll see others, but it's good to see the Department of Justice slightly awakened, and I think it's an encouraging sign that more can be coming. So have a good day. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.